God gives you the strength to overcome fear once and for all. And today you'll discover how this strength works within you, even when all seems lost. You know that tightness in your chest that appears out of nowhere? That thought that paralyzes you just as you're about to take an important step? Fear doesn't make a sound when it arrives. It simply settles in like a cold shadow that follows you. And worst of all, you start to believe it's part of who you are, that it's always been this way and always will be. But I need to tell you something. That's a very well-told lie. Fear has a silent but powerful voice. It whispers, "You can't do it. You're not strong enough. Everyone will see you fail." And when you hear it so many times, you start to back away. You stop trying. You give up before you even begin. How many times have you let a dream die because fear convinced you you weren't capable? How many doors have you not opened because you were afraid of what was on the other side? I know what that's like. I know what it's like to feel like the whole world keeps moving while you're stuck somewhere inside yourself. It's like there's an invisible wall between you and the life God has prepared for you. And you know what's hardest? It's looking around and realizing that no one sees this struggle. No one understands, because fear doesn't leave marks on the body, it leaves marks on the soul. But there's something you need to understand today, something that can change everything. Fear only has power as long as you believe you're alone, and you're not. There's a greater force watching every desperate beat of your heart, a presence that knows every wound that makes you retreat. And this presence isn't waiting for you to be strong, it's waiting for you to let its strength manifest through you. Does fear really have that much power? Or have we forgotten where to find true courage? There are times in life when loneliness hurts more than anything else. You look up at the sky and ask, "Where are you?" But the silence remains. And then fear takes the opportunity to whisper again, "You have been abandoned." Let me tell you a story, a true story, recorded thousands of years ago, but one that could be your story today. There's a young man named David. He was no one special in the eyes of the world. He was the youngest, the forgotten one, the one who wasn't even called when the prophet came to anoint a king. While his brothers were at war, he tended sheep in the fields, alone, invisible. But something was happening there in that silence, because you see, while David was alone with the sheep, he wasn't really alone. He sang to God, he talked to him, and when a lion appeared to devour the sheep, David didn't run. He fought and won. Then a bear came, and David won again. No one saw it, no one applauded. But God was preparing that heart for something much greater, because when Goliath appeared, a giant nearly 10 feet tall, covered in armor, mocking God's people, David looked at that monster and said something unbelievable. "You come against me with sword, spear, and shield, but I come against you in the name of the Lord of hosts." Do you know what this means? It means that while everyone saw an invincible giant, David saw an even greater God. His courage wasn't born in battle. It was forged in silence when no one was looking, when he learned that God is greater than fear. And you? Maybe you're in your field, in your desert, thinking you've been forgotten. But I assure you, God is watching. He is preparing you. And what you call solitude, He calls a school of faith. Because it's in silence that we learn to hear the right voice. It's in the darkness that God's light shines brightest. The Bible says in Isaiah 41:10, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Did you read that? God didn't say, "If you are strong enough." He said, "I will strengthen you." Strength doesn't come from you. It comes from Him. And He has already decided that He will sustain you. But if God has always been there, why does it sometimes seem like He is so far away? There's one thing about fear that we rarely talk about. It almost never has anything to do with the present. It comes from the past, from the things that hurt you, from the words that scarred you, from that moment when you tried and failed, and someone laughed in your face. Maybe it was rejection, maybe it was trauma, Maybe you grew up being told you weren't good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, and those voices stuck with you like invisible scars. Now, whenever an opportunity presents itself, those voices return, and they scream louder than any promise from God. That's why so many people get stuck when they need to take a step of faith, because deep down, there's a wounded child saying, "The last time you trusted, you got hurt. The last time you tried, you failed. Why would it be any different now?" And fear uses these wounds as fuel. It keeps you hostage to what's already happened, preventing you from experiencing what God has in store. But here's the liberating truth. You don't have to heal alone. In fact, you can't, because the deepest wounds of the soul are only healed by a spiritual power in God that goes beyond our understanding. It's a healing that happens from the inside out, that takes that old pain and transforms it into testimony, into strength, into compassion for others. God isn't afraid of your past. He doesn't back down when he sees your scars. On the contrary, he draws near and whispers, "I know what happened to you. I saw it. I cried with it. But now let me show you who you really are. Let me rewrite the story that fear has created about you." And that's where emotional liberation begins, with God's help. When you stop running from your wounds and start placing them in the hands of the one who can truly heal them. When you decide that the past will no longer have a say in your future. What if the only thing standing between you and freedom is the courage to let God into the darkest parts of your heart? There comes a decisive moment in every human life, a moment when you must choose, continue believing the voice of fear, or start believing the voice of God, because the two are always talking. Fear says, "You are alone." God says, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Fear says, "You have no future." God says, "I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace and not for evil, to give you hope and a future." Fear says, "You are too weak." God says, "My strength is made perfect in weakness." So which voice will you choose to listen to? Because here's the secret. The faith that overcomes fear isn't a feeling. It's a decision. It's you saying, even with a trembling voice, "I choose to believe in God. I choose to trust, even without understanding. I choose to take a step, even when I'm afraid." And look, before I continue, let me make a quick request. If this message touches your heart, subscribe to the channel and like it, because the more people share this, the more lives will be touched. And maybe someone you know needs to hear this very thing today. So help spread the word, okay? Now come back with me, because I need you to understand something. When you decide to trust God, something supernatural happens. It's as if a light begins to shine within you. It's not a light you created. It's the presence of God breaking through the darkness. And fear, it begins to retreat, because fear cannot withstand the light of faith. The Bible says in 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Do you understand? God didn't plant fear in you. That came from somewhere else. What God planted was power, courage, the ability to love without fear of getting hurt, the wisdom to discern between the voice of lies and the voice of truth. And when you start living this way, everything changes. You may still feel fear sometimes, but it no longer controls you, because now you know that God is greater than fear, and that courage through God's presence is not the absence of fear. It's the choice to continue, even with it. But how does this force actually work within us? How does it sustain us when everything else falls apart? Here's something many people don't understand about God's spiritual power. It doesn't work the way we expect. We want an instant miracle, a ray of light, an overnight transformation. But God works differently. He works within, in the silence of the soul, in the secret place where only you and He meet. It's like a tree. You don't see the roots growing underground, but they're there, deepening, strengthening, seeking water. And it's because of these invisible roots that the tree can withstand the storm. It doesn't fall, it sways, but it doesn't break. because its strength lies in what no one sees. This is what happens in prayer. When you shut yourself away in your room and pour out your heart to God, something is happening. You may not feel anything special at the moment. You may even leave feeling like nothing has changed. But deep down in the roots of your soul, God is working. He is strengthening you, preparing you, teaching your heart to trust. And then, when the storm hits, and it always does, you discover a strength you never knew you had. You face situations that would have paralyzed you before, and you don't fall. You go through things that should have destroyed you, and you still stand. And you ask yourself, how did I do it? The answer is simple. It wasn't you. It was the invisible strength God planted within you during those moments of intimacy with Him. The Bible talks about this in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. See? It's not, I can do all things because I am strong. It's, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The source of strength is not within you. It's within God. And when you connect with Him, you connect with an inexhaustible source. So if you're feeling weak today, if you think you can't make it through another day, remember this: God strengthens the weak. He takes the broken and transforms them into warriors. He specializes in doing the impossible through ordinary people who simply chose to trust. But what happens when faith and fear collide and you have to choose who will lead your life? There's a turning point. A turning point. It's when you stop trying to figure it all out and start simply obeying. When you let go of control and say to God, okay, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I trust you. That's terrifying, isn't it? Because we want guarantees. We want to see the end before taking the first step. We want to know everything will work out before taking the risk. But faith doesn't work that way. Faith is taking the step before seeing the ground. It's believing in the promise, even when circumstances scream otherwise. And do you know what happens when you do this? When faith takes control of your life, fear loses its power, because fear feeds on the illusion that you're in control and need to solve everything yourself. But when you surrender control to God, when you recognize that He's in charge, the weight lifts from your shoulders and a peace comes that makes no sense at all, but is real. A peace the Bible calls peace that surpasses all understanding. It's like Peter walking on water. He looked at Jesus and heard, "Come," and he went. He got out of the boat. He stepped on the water. And as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he walked on what should have sunk him. Only when he looked at the storm, the wind, the impossibility of the situation, did he begin to sink. But even then, Jesus was there. He reached out, he caught him, and said, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" That's the lesson. It's not about having perfect faith. It's about keeping your eyes in the right place. It's about turning your focus to Jesus every time fear tries to drag you down. Because overcoming fear with God's help isn't a process of becoming courageous alone. It's a process of learning to look to Him instead of the problem. And when you do, something amazing happens. The situation may not change immediately, but you do. Your heart calms, your mind stabilizes, and you discover you have the courage to face whatever comes. Because you're not facing it alone. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths." That's the key. Trust even when you don't understand, and let God guide you. What if I told you that the freedom you've been searching for is just a step away? There comes a time when something breaks inside you, and I'm not talking about something bad. I'm talking about when the chains break. When that weight you've carried for years finally falls away. When you realize, perhaps for the first time in your life, that you are free. This is liberation from fear through faith. And it's not just a pretty theological concept. It's a real experience. It's when you wake up one day and realize that the thought that tormented you no longer has power. It's when you face a situation that would previously have paralyzed you and discover that you can breathe, you can think, you can act. Because God didn't come just to comfort you while you remain imprisoned. He came to truly set you free. Jesus said it clearly, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And what is the truth? That you no longer need to live as a slave to fear, that the lies you've believed about yourself don't define who you are, that your worth doesn't depend on human approval, perfect performance, or never failing. Your worth comes from being a child of God, and no one can take that away from you. Not mistakes, not failure, not the opinions of others. You are loved not for what you do, but for who you are, created in God's image, with purpose, with destiny, with a future that goes beyond anything fear has tried to steal from you. And when this truth descends from the intellect to the heart, everything transforms. You stop living in fear of disappointment, fear of not being accepted, fear of trying and failing. Because you understand that even if you fall, God lifts you up. Even if you make mistakes, God forgives you. Even if everyone abandons you, God remains. Spiritual healing from fear happens when you allow God's love to cast out all fear, because there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, as verse John 4:18 says. And there is no love more perfect than God's love for you. A love that doesn't give up, that doesn't tire, that doesn't abandon you on your worst days. So today, in this moment, you can choose to believe this. You can choose to let God remove fear from your heart. It won't be magical, it may be a process, but it will be real, because God is faithful to complete the work He began in you. But what comes after liberation? What is it like to live on the other side of fear? Remember that silence I mentioned at the beginning? That silence that was scary, that made you feel alone? Well, it's different now. Now silence doesn't bring fear. It brings peace, because you're no longer running from Him. You're no longer filling your life with distractions to avoid facing what's inside you. You've learned to rest. You've learned that you don't need to prove anything to anyone, that you don't need to live in a desperate rush, trying to control everything, because you trust that God is in control. And there's something special about this place of inner peace with God. It's a place where you can simply be, no mask, no performance, no fear of judgment. It's you and God, and nothing else matters. The worries of the world fall away. The voices that once tormented you fall silent, and you hear that still small voice saying, "Be still and know that I am God." This doesn't mean your life is perfect. It doesn't mean you won't face any more challenges, but it does mean you now have a place to return to, a place of rest, of renewal, of safety. And this place isn't a physical location, it's God's presence. And you can access it anytime, anywhere. Do you know how God transforms fear into peace? He replaces anxiety with the certainty that He is taking care of everything. He replaces worry with the confidence that nothing takes Him by surprise. He replaces despair with the hope that everything will work out for your good, because you love God and have been called according to His purpose. Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." The peace He gives is different. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It doesn't disappear when the storm comes. It remains because it comes from a source that never fails. And you can live in this peace. It's not a privilege for a select few. It's a promise for all who choose to trust. For all who decide to rest in God instead of struggling alone. For all who learn to pray instead of despairing. But there is one question that remains. What will you do now with this freedom? Did you know that the Bible talks a lot about fresh starts, about new opportunities, about restoring trust in God, which transforms failures into stepping stones to something greater? Think of the Apostle Peter. He denied Jesus 3 times. 3. At his most critical moment, when Jesus most needed support, Peter said, "I don't know the man." Imagine the guilt, the shame, the fear that he had messed up, that there was no turning back. But Jesus went after him. He appeared to him after the resurrection, and he did something beautiful. He asked 3 times, "Do you love me?" And when Peter said yes, Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." Jesus didn't just forgive, he restored. He gave a new beginning. And that same Peter who denied Jesus out of fear later preached with such courage that thousands were converted in a single day. This is God's specialty, transforming the broken into strength, the fearful into courage, the failures into victorious. Because God gives you the strength to continue without fear, not because of who you were, but because of who He is. And now it's your turn. You who spent so much time in prison, you who gave up on so many things, you who thought you'd never make it. Today you start over, but not like before. Now you start over knowing you're not alone, that there's a God who goes before, who goes beside, and who has your back. Every obstacle you faced, it wasn't wasted. It was training. It was preparation. It was God teaching you that you are stronger than you imagined, because overcoming the fear of failure with faith isn't about never falling. It's about learning that when you fall, God lifts you up. And every time He lifts you up, you become stronger. Isaiah 40:31 says something powerful. But those who wait for the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. That's the promise, renewal of strength, not because you're superhuman, but because you're connected to the source of all strength. So get up, shake off the dust, and walk. This time, without chains. This time, with faith that brings security and courage. This time, with the certainty that God is with you, and that if He is for you, it doesn't matter who is against you. But there's something I've been saving to tell you just now, something that will close all of this in a way you'll never forget. Here's what I wanted you to understand from the beginning. God never wastes anything, not even your fear, not even your struggles, not even those dark days when you thought you wouldn't survive, because what you experienced will become your message. What you overcame will become your testimony, and someone, somewhere, is going through exactly what you went through. And when they hear your story, when they see that you survived, that you won, that you're on the other side, they will have hope. They will have courage. They will understand that if God did this for you, He can do it for them too. This is the beauty of redemption. God doesn't just heal you, He transforms your pain into purpose. Your struggle into ministry, your testimony into a source of life for others. And suddenly you realize that everything the enemy wanted to use to destroy you, God is using to promote you, to position you, to make you a model of faith and courage in God. Romans 8:28 is not a cliche. It's literally true. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Everything, including the fear you've felt, including the tears you've cried, including the nights you couldn't sleep. God is turning all of this into something good. So today, I want you to do something. I want you to stop for a moment and give thanks. Give thanks, not only for the victory, but also for the battle. Because it was in the battle that you discovered what you're made of. It was there that you knew God in a way you never would have in your comfort zone. It was there that you learned that hope and strength in God's presence aren't theory, they're reality. What now? Now you have a choice. Keep this story to yourself or share it. Let someone know that it's possible to overcome, that it's possible to have peace, that it's possible to live free. Because when you share your testimony, you're not just inspiring someone, you're fulfilling the purpose for which God brought you here. So I challenge you, share this video with someone you know needs to hear it. Comment below which part resonated with you most. And if you're not already subscribed, sign up now, because every week there's new content to strengthen your faith and help you live the abundant life Jesus promised. And let me end with one final truth, a biblical revelation I've saved, especially for this moment. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, Paul writes something that changed my life. He says that God told him My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Do you understand the depth of this? God doesn't wait for you to be strong before he uses you. He moves powerfully through your weakness. The fear you felt, it was the perfect setting for God to show himself. Your limitations, they're the stage where his strength shines brightest. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be available. And when you understand this, when you truly internalize that the spiritual power in God works best when you recognize that you can't do it alone, then you become unstoppable. Because now it's no longer about you, it's about him working through you. And there's no limit to what God can do with someone who simply says, "Use me, Lord. I trust you. So go live, go dream, go try, go take risks, because God is with you, and he gave you the strength to overcome fear once and for all. Not because the fear has disappeared, but because now you know that he is greater, much greater. May the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Amen.